South Africa's economic heartland must now get by on water that it imports from a foreign country. A country that exists entirely inside South Africa, albeit. You see, we pay 3 times more for this imported water than from our locally supplied sources. In today's video, we are going to look at the strange reality that had hit Gauteng, the richest province by far, the province that generates a third of South Africa's entire GDP, and the province just situated north of the massive Vaal Dam, which is structurally now dependent on expensive internationally sourced water. How on earth did this situation come about? Who benefits from it? And what is this implying for discussions on our sovereignty as a country, self-determination, and political arrangement inside Southern Africa? You see, Gauteng is the engine of the South African economy. The province contributes exactly a third, that is just over 33% of South Africa's total GDP. Its economy is more than double the size of the second richest province, KwaZulu-Natal, and nearly 3 times richer than the third richest province, the Western Cape. In fact, if Gauteng were a country on its own, it would be the 6th largest economy in all of Africa, behind only Egypt, the rest of South Africa, Nigeria, Algeria, and Morocco. This means that Gauteng's economy is larger than 48 out of the 54 countries on the African continent. This, despite the fact that Gauteng is only roughly the size of a small European country like Slovenia or Montenegro, but with a far larger economy. Yet, for its most important resource, water, the engine of South Africa's economy is dependent now upon water imported from Lesotho. And it pays 3 times more for this water than it does from the water that is located all around Gauteng in some of this country's biggest dams. There are only 3 countries in the entire world that are completely located within and surrounded by a single other country like Lesotho. 2 of these 3 are located in Italy. They are San Marino and the Vatican City. San Marino is so famous for its medieval hilltop capital, historic fortresses, long tradition of independence, and of course for hosting a Formula One Grand Prix. The Vatican City, on the other hand, is the smallest country in the world, a small theocratic city-state governed by the Roman Catholic Church. The only country in the entire world outside of Italy that is wholly surrounded by a single other nation is, of course, the Kingdom of Lesotho, an independent Sotho ethno-state inside South Africa. Back in the 19th century, the Basotho nation was unified under the leadership of King Moshoeshoe I, following their forced migration into the mountains of what would later become Lesotho in light of the genocide conducted by Kings Shaka and Ngane of the Zulus. Scattered clans established these strongholds in the mountains at Thaba Bosiu, laying the foundations of the modern Basotho kingdom. In 1868, the British Empire established their colonial rule over the Sotho kingdom, and Lesotho became a British protectorate under the direct authority of the British Crown. This is also the sole reason why Lesotho did not become part of South Africa when the Union of South Africa was established in 1910. It would only be after nearly a century of British rule that Lesotho would finally achieve independence in 1966. Today, Lesotho remains one of only a handful of monarchies in Africa where the king is still the head of state. Today, Lesotho's GDP is only slightly over $2 billion, making it one of the poorest countries in the world and one of the smallest economies on the continent. Its GDP per capita is a mere $1,000 per person, roughly 8% of the global average, also making it probably the poorest country near South Africa, with a significant share of the labor force working in informal, low productivity activities like subsistence agriculture. Its economy is largely dependent on South Africa, with a large percentage of its citizens also working in South Africa. But one of the major streams of income for this tiny mountain kingdom now comes from selling water to South Africa, the world's most precious resource. This comes by virtue of the Lesotho Highlands Water Project, a massive water transfer and hydropower scheme which captures water in the high rainfall mountains of Lesotho and transfers it via dams and tunnels to the Vaal River system, supplying the industrial heartland in Gauteng. The project utilizes the steep gradients and high rainfall in the Lesotho Highlands so that water can flow by gravity through tunnels into South Africa, minimizing pumping costs. This is Africa's largest inter-basin water transfer scheme, and the project was formalized through a 1986 treaty signed by the apartheid government of P.W. Botha as well as the King of Lesotho. The infrastructure itself wasn't actually built by Lesotho either, but by a consortium of European and South African firms, with the former apartheid government having financed all of the capital cost in this Basotho ethno-state. Over the past 4 decades, revenue from exporting this water to South Africa has been absolutely essential to Lesotho's economic survival, as it sells water to this country for around 3 times the price of locally sourced water. This is because, apart from the costs involved in maintaining the infrastructure, South Africa also pays royalties to the Lesotho government, which then flows into Lesotho's national fiscus, where they are treated as sovereign revenue. These revenues paid for water by South Africa amount to around 3 billion rands or just around $200 million and actually account for over 10% of Lesotho's entire GDP. Gauteng is especially dependent now upon the water source in Lesotho, with around 25% or 1 in every 4 liters consumed in the province coming via the Lesotho Highlands Water Project. This has immense economic consequences for South Africa, as our economic hub is dependent upon water that we pay extra royalties on because it is internationally sourced, despite coming from what is essentially the middle of our country. This also has immense economic consequences for South Africa because the country's primary industrial heartland is structurally locked into paying sovereign premiums for a basic production input. Every factory, mine, data center and household in Gauteng indirectly carries the cost of international water royalties, embedding a permanent cost disadvantage into South Africa's economy. What this does show to us is just how much respect the former government had for the right of people like the Basotho Nation to self-determination. In contradistinction to the propaganda you hear about white people in this country supposedly stealing resources, the Lesotho Highlands Project shows how the former government of this country respected the sovereignty of black nations in South Africa to such an extent that it not only constructed the necessary infrastructure, but was willing to pay royalties on top of that for sourcing water from within Lesotho's borders, even though it was so much more expensive than their own water. And today, the ANC government, for all of its faults, maintains this arrangement, respecting the sovereignty of the Basotho Nation in their own ethnic homeland, despite the costs involved. Yet, it doesn't have to be this way. A simple solution would be to establish a joint water market zone, creating bilateral water common markets where bulk water inside both territories is treated as part of a shared resource basin, and transfers within the basin face no sovereign royalty, only infrastructural fees. Alternatively, a renegotiated water pricing formula could be drawn up in a revised treaty according to which royalties are partially indexed to cost recovery and inflation, not to value-based pricing, with a price corridor capping how far imported water can exceed local bulk water costs. This would keep Lesotho's revenue stable while preventing extreme price divergence in South Africa. A third option would be an infrastructure offset mechanism where South Africa funds new dams and infrastructure upgrades in Lesotho, and in return annual royalties decline proportionally. This would effectively convert cash outflows into capital investment in this country. The possibilities are there, but what we lack here in South Africa is the political will to save money, especially now that South Africa has become so poor and there is so much pressure on our economy and our fiscus. This same lack of political will also applies to establishing more ethnic sovereignty for the various nations inside South Africa. One of the major counter-arguments against this is that if South Africa broke up, the different political units would not be economically viable. Yet, like in the case of Lesotho, a lot of these obstacles could be overcome by simply applying a little bit of political creativity. In a recent video, we highlighted the ANC government's hypocrisy in supporting secession in the Western Sahara and Palestine while opposing Cape independence or Afrikaner self-determination. Check out this full report by clicking on the link appearing on your screen right here. And remember to become a member of the Willem Petscher Group. Only with your support can we continue producing daily videos of this quality to change the hearts and minds of people. Simply follow the easy steps on the banner underneath me. Goodbye and God bless.